Hello, this is Chris from TrinityAlignment.com, and I'm with Rehmannia Dean Thomas, who's a Chinese tonic herbalist, and he's going to be talking about a specific product that he has for athletes, and we'll talk about athletic performance and what Chinese tonic herbs a particular athlete can take to help with his performance.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thanks, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with your friends. And are they your clients or just friends, associates? And
they're friends, clients. We have a lot of athletes in Las Vegas, a lot of performers, and you know, they've typical like energy drinks and stuff like that, or you know, 7 cups of coffee to keep us going in the show. So I'm wondering what some alternatives that you could recommend for, but particularly for energy and recovery.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm a Taoist tonic herbalist in an ancient Chinese lineage of herbology, and one of the many benefits of this, this lineage and its history and its development was that the ancient emperors and the empresses, they wanted to have their youth, their longevity, their virility, their vitality. And so they would tell their alchemists, go and find me stuff to, keep my virility up, or go and find me stuff to keep up my beauty and my fertility and all this. And so for thousands of years, the alchemists who sought to find substances in nature were working on behalf of, the elite, the emperors and empresses and the other elite who wanted them to find things for their youth and their vitality. So it turns out that there are a lot of plant substances and herbs and, some animal and even insect parts and minerals and resins and things that have been found in the Chinese herbal system over centuries that are, noticeably beneficial for toning muscle, increasing libido, increasing adaptability, your physical adaptability, your mental agility, and your mental and physical adaptability. And this stuff, fortunately for us, was documented now, through all this time. And modern research, extensive modern research in Asia on these herbs and substances have found that the ancient people were quite correct. And so the vast majority of the modern research has only proven the ancients to have been correct in their assumptions. And the way that they found that out is by empirical observation. Just over thousands of years, these things were taken, and it was determined that they were. So we've got all that history behind us, and then we have the motivations and the searchings that were based on finding stuff for strength, vitality. Ginseng alone. I mean, we could talk probably this whole talk about ginseng alone. And everybody knows that ginseng's good for you, but there are lots of different types of ginseng.
Red ginseng.
Yeah, the red Korean ginseng is the most what we call yang.
Yeah.
And the yang energy is the male energy. It is the energy of out pushing, the outreaching energy of life. The taking out. Yin is the energy of absorbing and replenishing. And they are both need to be in equal proportions for us to have true health. So the thing that athletes need to learn a lot of the time, from before we even begin speaking about some of the better known herbs, is that there always needs to be not only a time of the out pushing and the exertion, but there needs to be an equal time of rest and recuperation. So whenever you talk about something that's going to truly help strengthen someone's vitality from the root, then that substance or that herb, that formula of herbs or that health food or whatever it is, needs to also have components that are for regenerating and rejuvenating.
Got you. So not just yang all the time.
No, if we go that route, we would burn out. Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you drink a lot of coffee. Well, coffee produces an effect that we call false fire, because it has a unidirectional energetic that causes the adrenals to turn on hormones and stuff that tenses the muscles and and creates an adrenal exertion on the adrenals.
Gotcha.
And this is one directional, so that we don't get the replenishment part back. So then we call this false fire. You've turned on your adrenals. You're like pulling the fire alarm every time you drink a cup of coffee for your adrenals to send out chemicals into the bloodstream to respond to the caffeine. And that's where we get the energy from. So then if we don't also take something that replenishes that, we're going to burn out. And so the Chinese understood this over all this time. They came up with that concept of yin and yang. And they are equals. They're in equal proportions. So for anyone who ever hopes to engage in long-term athletic vitality, must be fortifying both yang and yin too. And that's where I think the specialty of my work comes in for with regard to athletes, and the specialty and the wisdom of the lineage that I'm in. So I develop products that take both of these into account. But let me just tell you about a few herbs beforehand that are known for athletic power and that are in the Chinese herbology system. You mentioned Korean ginseng, which is yang, and it is almost a little too yang, so it needs to be combined with herbs that are a little more yin in formulas. And so I
noticed, sorry to cut. I noticed some people saying like you shouldn't take that type of particular ginseng until you're like in your 50s. Is that true?
Well, it depends on the individual. If you're a man who's got a lot of yang energy, then that could throw you over the top if you don't balance it with some yin herbs.
Gotcha.
And this is really where the beauty of the Chinese Materia Medica comes into effect, is because we know they learned how to combine things to make sure that the energetics are balanced. If you had a young person who was just weak and not strong and had a weak constitution, was always sick and was not growing well and was always felt kind of cold, like a young girl, his hands and feet are cold, then Korean ginseng could be good for a young person like that. But even still, regardless, I would always say you would combine it with an herb like Hosho Wu or Rehmannia or Ophiopagan or something that's yin building to offset the yang, to augment, or give foundation to all that yangness. So yangness is kind of flying up, and so you need to hold it down with something sometimes. So the yin herbs are more foundational for that. So the yin herbs actually provide the foundation that we can spring out of in our athletic endeavors. Well, the famous yang herbs, though, for athletic endurance is definitely the herb Sistanch. Sistanch is a fabulous herb that is used by athletes in Asia. It's also known as a sex tonic. Because when you tonify the adrenals, you're all forthing the sexual drive. And that's partly the adrenals are involved in that. So Sistanch is well known as a libido enhancer, plus very good for toning the muscles and the yang energy. Another herb similar to that is epimedium. Epimedium is used, and epimedium is its folk name is horny goat weed.
Oh yeah,
so you may have heard of that.
I didn't recognize it. Yeah, horny
it's one of the
weed.
oldest herbs used in history, and it's quite a wonderful herb when used right. It got its name because ancient goat herders would see their goats go to a tree and start foraging on the leaves of the tree, and then immediately go into mating frenzies.
Yeah.
So the herder said, "Wow, it's a horny goat." That's where it got its name. It's actually a herb that's been used for thousands of years. It's very effective for men and women in fertility formulas. When people are trying to start a family, you'll find that both of those are Sistanch and epimedium in there. So these are really effective. Now, I have both of those herbs in a formula called Youngman. And this is a whole herb formula. You can get it at my company called ShamanShackHerbs.com.
Okay.
And it is a packet of whole herbs. You boil it and you drink the tea. Because the Chinese always said, taking a properly formulated formula of whole herbs, boiling it according to the traditional method, and drinking the tea fresh is the most efficacious, we call it, delivery system for your herbal therapy. And I still believe that. So when I left my teacher in 2006, I said, I'm going to go back to, I'm going to do whole herb herbalism. And he gave me his blessing. He said, great. And I've stayed with that as my real art, my real true love. And so that Youngman formula, it's inexpensive. It's only $18 for a bag of it. And It makes about 2 gallons of tea. You drink that couple of gallons. It'll last you about 15 days drinking that. You keep the tea in the fridge after you make it.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
And you drink 2 or 3 cups. Well, you make a gallon at a time. So you cook the herbs once in a gallon. You drink all that 2 or 3 cups a day. Gotcha. Then you cook the same herbs again, and you drink that 2 or 3 cups a day. Actually, 3 times you cook the herbs. So the first cooking is said to when you make these teas. The first cooking is a very robust tasting substance, kind of almost like drinking coffee, and you feel an immediate. I mean, the feeling is very. You get all the yang stuff because the yang stuff's on the surface of the herbs, and you get all that out in that first cooking. You feel that invigoration. Then the second cooking, you start to pierce more into the marrow and into the deeper precepts of the deeper parts of the the herbs, and that's where the yin replenishment is in the second cooking. Gotcha. Then the third cooking, if you choose to do that, is almost like homeopathic. It's like drinking hot water. It doesn't have much taste left, but it's definitely got an effect that's beneficial. So that's the traditional method of doing it. So for athletes, my favorite recommendation is Youngman. Now that formula has epimedium and sustanche in it, but it's also got Ho Shou Wu, which is a yin replenisher and a kidney tonic and a root, substance. So we keep grounded in our, as athletes, we not only want to have the power up here, but we want to be grounded on this earth. We want to know when we're running over the rocks and that our feet are firmly planted in its steps, right? And that we're not burning ourselves out. So you have a Ho Shou Wu in that formula. And then I went ahead and threw a few herbs in there that benefit the liver, to cleanse the blood in the liver. Bupleurum and dragon bone are in there. Okay. It's a very, very complex formula, liquid fruit to harmonize it. But it's all based on formulas from the Chinese Materia Medica that have been used for thousands of years. That's the one that I like most. Then as far as other things that I have, I know that a lot of times we don't have time to go cooking herbs and spend that hour, boiling stuff and all that. So we need easier for some. So I have a supplement. It's like a protein powder type thing. Only it's more like a longevity nutritional powder for long-term health and vitality. And the one that I recommend for athletes is called Super Morning Jing. The word Jing means your true root health. It is genetic based. It's your kidneys and everything. It's your life potential is called Jing. It's a very big word. And this substance fortifies Jing. And when we fortify Jing, we can take on any adventure that comes our way. We can defend ourselves. Our libido's up. We're ready to, whatever life throws at us, we're ready to help take those punches and yeah, come on, right? Yeah. We have a lot of Jing. We laugh in the face of the stresses of life, and that's what we need to do to protect our adrenals and our kidneys. I think that's one reason why people pay a lot of money to go watch those guys play basketball and everything, because what's happening while they're doing that is that they're under acute stress. Yeah. And man, those guys have to keep their focus. And that's what people respect so much about it, is how do these guys keep all that stress under all? Not only how do they keep their focus and their equipoise and everything under that stress against their adversaries, but also with all these people, millions of people watching this guy getting ready to try throw that ball into that basket, right? How does he keep from getting stressed out, right? Well, I think that's part of what people pay a lot of money to see that guy pull that off without any stress.
As an acrobat, it's crazy because we're flipping off bars in the water, and we have a margin of error, and we're making calculations at nanoseconds, and then we're doing that twice a night, 5 days a week. By the time the weekend comes, we're just oh, how do I wind down?
Yeah, man, no doubt. Okay. So Super Morning Jing is designed to build up that root vitality so that you can take on life and not get stressed. That's what it's about. So we have to not only build up our adrenals, we have to fortify the kidneys too. And the Chinese see the kidney as an energetic meridian that really is the foundation of our life. That it holds energies, not just the renal function of the kidney. We're talking about kind of an essential function of it that the Chinese believe. is where our roots are genetically, and our life potential is in our kidneys. And our adrenals are like the kind of a valve that lets some of that energy out to be experienced in the world. So the kidneys could be looked at like your gold vault, your genetic gold vault, and it holds your life potential. How vital are you? How muscular are you? How strong are you in the face of fear and adversity and challenge? And that's all in the kidneys. And the adrenals are the valve that lets you experience some of that. That's the way we look at it.
Gotcha.
So Super Morning Jing is fortifies the kidneys mainly, and also increases your adaptability and your ability to take on those stressful episodes of your life and respond to them. It's the funny thing about stress is that if your kidneys are really strong and you're, according to the way the Chinese see the kidney essence, if it's good and that wellspring is good and full, and you've got good genetics and you got good musculature and you're living a good life and you're not under too much stress and you're happy with yourself and all those things that we can all achieve, then your life potential, when the things would come that would stress some people, you look at it and you're like, and that's what we have to do. We have to do that in this world today. We have to be able to laugh at stress and go, so what, and no big deal, man. Don't let it get to you. You say, when you see people stressing, and that is a measure of our vitality now. So Super Morning Jing has Ho Shou Wu, which builds up the kidneys. Then it has all black. It has all black foods. The Chinese believe black foods go to your kidneys and adrenals, and that's so it has black bean, black rice, black sesame, and it has a superfood from the Incas called maca, which is very well known for athletic endurance and muscle. And we gelatinize the maca in our formula, which I believe is better than raw maca. I don't think it's necessarily all that good. Then we have a little bit of bee pollen in there, and we have some palm sugar, so just to make it a little bit sweet, but it needs to actually be sweetened more, but it's there for just a little bit of that. And then it has Shilajit, which is a super substance from India. Shilajit is the top Ayurvedic herb. It's not really an herb, it's more like a substance that comes from the mountains of the Himalayas. And it's thought to be comprise the humic acids of ancient rainforests. It's got things that have everything in it. They think it has all the periodic elements, table of elements. It has basically a whole ancient forest with all animals and bugs and everything all broken down into these humic acids. It's in this resin they call Shilajit. And they in India, some people say if you take Shilajit, you can just, like, there are people in India who apparently can just run right through brick walls and stuff. You take Shilajit. And so Shilajit is, please, if you start taking, my product, don't try and run through a wall. Just yet, okay, please. But Shilajit is called destroyer of weakness and conqueror of mountains or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's in there. And this is a by itself. I mean, Shilajit, and I have also a Shilajit resin that I get through a friend that I have access to, that is something great for athletes. But the Shilajit's in Super Morning Jing. Plus, then you have reishi mushroom, which is an empowerer of the immune system. It's a regulator of the immune system. Plus, it just helps you have kind of a spiritual outlook on everything. I think a really great asset of an athlete is to have kind of a peaceful, spiritual sort of outlook at the same time. What better life than to have a powerful, toned body that's capable of running over mountains, yet at the same time you got God. You got whatever your perception of God is. I call God the master gardener.
It definitely keeps you calm. The reishi mushroom. I noticed when I was drinking it, you get a sense of calmness after drinking it for a long period of time.
Right. So that's right. It's a wonderful thing. So that's in there. Then there's Chlorella, which is Chlorella is an algae that is a superfood, and algae are among the very first life forms on Earth. That basically all multicellular organisms arose from combinations of algae and bacteria and fungi. So that's in there. I know when I had a cat one time, and he was really lethargic, always laying around, and I was worried about him. He just laid around all the time. So one day I thought, I'll just try and put some Chlorella in his cat food and see what happens. So I put Chlorella in the cat food, and on the second feeding, I think it was, which was the night feeding, I fed him in the morning. that way. Then the night feeding, I fed him the same thing, little chlorella in there. And I'm sitting in my computer about, 20 minutes after I fed him. I'm sitting there working. I hear boom, ba-doom, boom, boom. And I look around and my cat's just flying across the apartment. Like, and I thought, oh my God, it can't be anything but that chlorella. There's no way that it could be just coincidental. And that's in there. But chlorella is a great superfood for deep rejuvenation and power. And then lastly, there's moringa, which is a superfood from the Philippines, which is the Philippines think it's a do-all. It's for everything. And that's in there. So you take a spoonful of this, and I like to put it in almond milk with like a little added honey or something. And it's just fantastic. I pretty much have it every day. I've been having that every day now since I developed it, maybe like 6 years ago. And I never get tired of this stuff because it tastes so good too. But this is a great thing for athletes. It has proteins because of the black bean and black rice do comprise a complete protein. But because I'm not using protein isolates in it, I can't market it as a protein powder because it doesn't have as high a ratios as other protein powders. But the thing is that they're not isolates. They're the whole material. They're the whole bean and the whole rice that have been broken down into kind of a creamy a powder that turns into a creamy liquid. Gives it a kind of a silky effect. And so, this is a source for protein. I can't say that it is your total source for protein, but you do get it from this. But really, it is on the long run. What this is a rejuvenation, empowerment, deep empowerment substance that you can take every day as a nutritional supplement that would give you an accrued and accumulated power that you would notice at the end of the day when everybody else is starting to really fizzle out and kind of just phase out and get like, you're just going, you're just still going. And I see that all the time. I'm always kind of shocked when I see people fading around me, and I'm like, "What do you mean, man? I'm just hitting my stride."
Yeah.
And so this is what we need. So Super Morning Jing, shamanshackherbs.com. And that and Youngman. Now, lastly, I have a single herb in a powdered extract called Tribulus. And Tribulus is a famous herb for endurance, muscle, so it's my one single yang herb that I sell as a single supplement. And you can get Tribulus from my company, shamanshackherbs.com. And it is a powdered extract that's really dense. It's like an 18-to-1 powdered extract, so it's very bitter. So all you can do is put a little pinch of that into your smoothies in the morning. But Tribulus is very famous as a athlete's and a sexual tonic.
What about pine pollen and deer antler extract?
Yeah, I don't sell either of those through my company, but I have a friend in England, Paul Rimmer's his name. He's got a really good pine pollen extract that he makes there. And pine pollen extract is high in androgen hormones. They're wonderful. Androgen hormones are the male yang hormones. And the pine pollen is particularly high in androgen hormones. It's a great thing. I've got a pine pollen extract from my friend Paul in my cabinet, and I put it in my smoothies a lot. I put a squirt of it in there. Sometimes just put a squirt under my tongue, and that's great. It's in a alcohol extract. Okay. Deer antler, you can get that from my teacher Ron Teagarden. He has the best deer antler dragon herbs. Deer antler is a really great thing, and the one thing I'd like to say about it is that I would say you want to specifically get your deer antler from Ron Teagarden because he knows what I'm getting ready to tell you. Deer in China have traditionally been harvested in a very humane way. The antler, I'm saying, the deer antler harvested in a very humane way. The deer is one of the sacred animals in Taoism and in Buddhism, so the deer in China are treated like sacred animals. They're protected. You're not herded in like cattle and then killed for their horns and stuff. That doesn't happen.
Gotcha.
What happens is in China there are these forests up in the north of China that are protected regions where even in some places humans aren't allowed in them. There are giant forested areas up in Manchuria on the border of North Korea. And there you have out in these woods you have these traditional deer herding, they're a little corral, and they've been there for thousands of years, handed down from family to family. And then what happens is that the deer have developed a symbiotic relationship with these herders. And so the deer voluntarily come in from the woods and come into this pen in the night, so they have protection from wolves and bears and things. And so the deer, from foxes and that kind of stuff. And so they at the end of the day at dusk, you see all these deer just start coming in, from the woods. Mm-hmm. And there's a gate, and the gate leads from this pen right out into the thicket of the woods. The deer just start coming in. And they come in there by the hundreds, and they sleep together in there. Sometimes they go into the deer herder's house and sleep like beside his bed. And then what they do is in the morning they wake up right before dawn. They look and they find the young bucks that have the antlers just where it's a 2 or 3 nodules are coming out, where it's just starting to split, and there's these bulbous nodules at the end. And inside those bulbous nodules is where all the hormones are. Gotcha. All of the growth hormones are going to make this antler go out like that. All those androgen hormones. Because the male is the one that produces these big antlers, and they produce antler very fast. So there's a lot of growth hormones there. That's how the Chinese recognized it. So they found a deer that's got that bulbous growth there, and that's where all the hormones are. They go out with a little Makita saw, and that one guy gently kind of puts his arms around the neck of the sleeping deer, and the other one goes like that. And then they put a protective salve. They put like an antibiotic salve there to make sure it doesn't get infected. And the deer jumps up and goes, whoa, and runs out and starts to grow another one. And so then they take that antler, and so the tip of the antler is where all of the hormonal activity is. Most deer antler products on the market contain what's referred to as the middles, and the middles is the other part, all the stem of the antler there, and there's little of that hormonal stuff there compared to that bulbous tip. Now that the Chinese have gotten into capitalism and they're starting to make a lot of money, now you've got the more wealthy or well-off people in China are now buying up all of the deer antler tips. So it's almost impossible to get them anymore. All I can get near tips from a supplier of mine, but I can't get tips anymore. The only person who can get the tips is Ron Teagarden. And so his deer antler extract does contain tips. He is very honorable about making sure people get product that actually works. And I think it's only like $70 for like a 2 ounce little squeeze bottle. I forget how many ounces are in there. Maybe 6 ounces or something. I forget. Mm-hmm. But it's only $70 for that. And there's deer antler tip in there, and that's a great thing to get. If you took Super Morning Jing, my product, Super Morning Jing, and you put a little deer antler tip and a little pine pollen and maybe a little tribulus in there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like rocket fuel.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That would really hit the spot, to put it mildly.
So you would need something. You would need something to really balance out the deer antler if you decided to go that route, or you could do something softer with the pine pollen, right? It's very young. Right?
Deer antlers, they're both very young. I mean, my ideal scenario would be to combine them with into something like Super Morning Jing, or
Gotcha.
Or I have a regular Morning Jing that doesn't have the shilajit and the Chlorella and moringa and reishi, and that's just more of a yin replenishing and deep foundational. You could take the regular Morning Jing and then add deer antler and pine pollen and tribulus if you want to add them into that, and that would make a great tonic for your daily drink. Yeah. Another nice young tonic is cordyceps.
Cordyceps. Everyone keeps talking about cordyceps, and it's like the main herb to go to, but it's also one of the most expensive herbs to get a hold of. Is that true?
Well, if you can't really afford the wild cordyceps anymore. It's again, the Chinese who have money now are buying up all the cordyceps that's wild. But what they did in the meantime is mycologists who are people who develop they figured out how to create cordyceps in like a controlled, like a tank, just myceliating the spores without having to have it done in the wild way where it grows on a caterpillar. And so now you can get this control grown cordyceps for pretty inexpensive. You know, I have a cordyceps extract with shamanshackherbs.com. You could also add that into your products.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cordyceps is a yang tonic that is also said to be extremely healthy for the lungs and lung immunity. And that's another thing that we athletic types need is we're running up that mountain. We need to make sure our lungs are like strong and can really process oxygen well into the blood, you know.
What about particularly for swimmers who are more in a damp environment? You know, what could they do to kind of protect themselves?
Well, a lot of the Chinese tonic herbs have what's called adaptogenic properties.
Mm-hmm.
So they help us adapt to changes in our environment and changes in our stress levels. And so a swimmer would want to take adaptogens. All of the tonic herbs. I would say Super Morning Jing is a highly adaptogenic formula. I mean, Shilajit is an adaptogen. The top adaptogens are Astragalus, Gynostemma, Rhodiola.
Yeah.
I have a Rhodiola extract. My adaptogenic formula from shamanshackherbs.com is called Four Eternals. And I guess I should have mentioned that because this is a great athlete's formula. Gosh, I should have remembered Four Eternals. It's got Astragalus, which is one of the top adaptogens, plus it's an immune tonic, and it supports what's called upright chi, so that chi is going up all the time. That's my microphone right there. Hello. And so then it has Shilajit. So it's got Astragalus, Shilajit, Rhodiola, one of the top adaptogenic herbs. In fact, the herb that the term adaptogen was coined around when they were studying it. Rhodiola is used by people who live in really, really high altitudes and live in really cold places to help keep them from freezing, and that they can breathe up there in Russia and high mountains of China and stuff. Same with cordyceps. But Four Eternals is Shilajit, Astragalus, Rhodiola, and Hosho Wu, which is the yin herb to give you that foundation again to replenish the kidney adrenal. You know, come to think of it, now that we're talking about it, I might think my Four Eternals products one of my best athletes formulas I have. If you probably did that combined with the Young Man, first thing I talked about, man, that'd be a great combination. But I have a lot to offer. I think it might be a matter of a person going to the website and just perusing there and deciding what feels right, you know.
Oh yeah.
Four Eternals mixed into Morning Jing, or Four Eternals taken with Youngman, and then add a little Tribulus to that. Then if you went to Ron Teagarden and got to Deer Antler, and to Paul Rimmer. I think Facebook Paul Rimmer, Paulrimmer. I forget the name of his company. It's called Ashuriga or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah.
What about
pine pollen?
Ligament repair and bone rebuilding for like someone who has a broken arm or any type of stressful injury.
Great question. Those are different herbs. The primary herbs used for bone, tendon, and ligament support and repair is an herb called Eucommia bark, which is one of the very first herbs ever used in human history. Again, it was supposedly found when people had noticed an animal get hurt and go to a tree and start chewing on the bark. And they said, well, let's try that. And then that helped them, heal their bones faster. And that was, somebody wrote that down, and that was some of the early beginnings of herbology in the world, was just watching animals and what they did, seeing when they got hurt, what did they do? And so they discovered Eucommia that way. Eucommia it's in my Youngman formula. Eucommia is in that formula. Yeah. Then the other two herbs for helping strengthen and repair bone are called Rehmannia and Dipsacus. They're used, I use them in custom herb formulas. I don't have them in any of my stock products on Shaman Shack, but that Youngman formula has Eucommia.
Okay.
And it's staunch and epimedium, and these others are definitely indicated in helping strengthen bone.
And how much of the Eucommia would an athlete need to take?
If you had a good extract of Eucommia, like a high quality extract, I think if you took 3 or 4 capsules of that a day, in your supplementation, you'd be pretty good.
As a powder form or alcohol
Yeah.
extract.
If you got somebody who had, I think Ron Teagarden's Dragon Herbs, I think they have a straight Eucomia powder.
Okay.
That they sell that you could get. But really, that formula of mine, Youngman, is because not only is there Eucomia, but to strengthen up in the healing of bones, you have the Cistanch and Epimedium there. And the Hosho Wu, again, going to the root. You really need to go, with yin replenishing herbs in order to get to the root. The bones are our root, of our structure. So, yin Jing herbs help combine with Yang Jing herbs is the key to really getting the blood strengthened in the kidneys, everything, that the body can repair itself really. When your kidneys are strong, your body can repair itself really quickly. When kidneys are weak, your body,
is our harder time. Bone structure, is it kind of related in Chinese medicine to the kidney area?
Yeah, it's related to kidney yang. See, the kidneys are sort of like the barometer, or the governors of yin and yang in the body. They hold both. The kidney yin is the restoration and restoring. Kidney yang is the use of that energy. And so kidney yang is the androgen stuff, the structural, all that, muscle, bone, defense, adaptability, and sexual drive is all yang energy. Again, that comes from the kidneys, and again, the adrenals are the valve of that allows you to experience some of all that in the world. So kidney yang herbs like Epimedium, Cistanch, another one called Morinda, and then cordyceps a little bit, Tribulus, Eucomia, those herbs. Most of those are in that Youngman formula.
That's awesome. Cool. Wound up, is there any particular type of calming herbs that you recommend that would bring our levels, our stress levels down, so that we could, get to bed faster?
Well, I don't use any herbs that are sedating. I could. There's an herb called Ziziphus that you can use, and Polygonum stem and dragon bone and things like that can calm, oyster shell. But I don't really use them because I believe that it's better to go to the root of your adaptability, which is, again, the kidneys. So if you're using Hosho Wu and Rehmannia and things like my Super Morning Jing that has all those black herbs that tonify kidney, and those adaptogens, like in my Four Eternals formula, those adaptogenic herbs, what an adaptogen does is it helps the body support the body's circadian rhythms. So in other words, when you need to get up in the morning, adaptogenic herbs help give you your body the impetus to kick in all those let's get up and go hormones and everything, and metabolism, and get metabolism moving. But then in the night, the same herb can be used to kick in the parasympathetic responses and to get you relaxed down and everything. Like Gynastemma is really famous for that, and rhodiola.
Okay.
I sell Gynastemma on my site, shamanchakherbs.com, and you can make a tea out of that. Gynastemma is a nice all-day tea for calming. But I believe that if you balance your energies and at the root, so that yang has a good springboard and a foundation, then come the nighttime when you come home, you'll fall into a nice deep rest. The only product of mine that I make that I find for myself really helps me as a nervine, like to relax my muscles and help me sleep, is my product called Sea Clear. Okay. And Sea Clear is a fermented kelp and chlorella in a miso base with raw apple cider vinegar. It's also a very good probiotic and alkalinizing. And I take that at night, and it helps my muscles relax.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, probiotics are a big deal these days.
They are. There's some indications now that they're finding that's indicated in why kids are getting autism, because their mothers and they themselves are not getting the right probiotics in their diet. Yeah, it's really important. But my big probiotic product is Sea Clear, and this I recommend for everybody to take, just as far as maintaining the good what we call the microbiota in the gut.
Yeah.
To maintain all that, and it's alkalinizing. It also helps remove metals and radiation. But it tends to be unnerving for me. It relaxes me real nicely in the night. Although the Chinese diet is primarily vegetables with a little bit of meat.
Even the Taoist
actually, even
tradition?
though I'm vegetarian. Yeah. Oh, the Taoists are. Yeah, even them. They'll eat a little meat. Yeah, and the Buddhists too do too.
Yeah, I noticed
Dalai
that
Lama eats a little.
the Dalai
Mhm.
Lama. I read an article somewhere talking about that they eat meat one day and then they're vegetarian the next day. Eat meat
Mhm.
one day and then vegetarian the next day, and they just go back and
That
forth.
makes sense. Yeah, just kind of make sure things get processed
Yeah.
well. Um, well, what the Chinese do is they a plate full of vegetables, and then they have a little bit of meat on there. Like the meat represents maybe 10% of the bulk of the stuff on there,
Yeah, and that's what
and
makes the
and
difference.
or sea fish and chicken. Eat a lot of
Hmm.
chicken, um, but it'll always be in a proper ratio. So they always say, have about 75% of its vegetable base, and another 25% can be a little bit of meat. And if the vegetables are cooked properly, not overcooked, and if they're still have a lot of their roughage and cellulose and their enzymes, then you'll process the meat through the whole system and be fine. It's only gotten swapped around in America where the people eat giant slabs of meat and don't even touch their vegetables on their plate. Is when the body gets acidic and there's weird bacteria. They're having a hard time dealing with all that stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then they obviously have more cooked vegetables in China than someone who's on a raw food diet.
Well, the Chinese have never really, the medical authorities there do not espouse a raw food diet. Although I just wrote a book that's going to be published. It's coming out on September 30th. It's called Raw Qi, and it's about using Chinese herbal elixirs to supplement and augment the raw food diet, because I'm into the raw food diet. Although I do see there are some problems with the raw food diet, because if you look at long-term raw foodists, there definitely looks like some deficiencies and weirdness going on there as far as their metabolism,
Yeah.
like the pallor of their skin and the structure of their muscles and everything seems to be messed up. And women can gain weight too around the hips
Hmm.
from water retention from a heavy diet. So I developed a product called Shapeshifter for that to help warm, and it's all chi herbs for tonifying chi we call, which helps with to break the body to get and break up all that roughage and raw food and get it through the system and actually derive the nutrition from it.
Yeah, I find it. Yeah, talking
But
to
yeah, mhm.
sorry, I was talking to Ayurvedic doctors, or even if you talk to like a traditional Chinese, acupuncturist, it's like no raw food, a damp spleen. Be careful.
I know, I know. Yeah, my book, I hope will change that scenario a little bit. And I would feel very, very proud to think that I was able to do something that helped to modify the Chinese materia medica, because that's like a pretty major thing that's
Yeah.
really hard to do. That stuff's like set in stone a lot of time in there.
Oh yeah.
And to come along. But every Chinese doctor I've talked with about my equation in my book, they say, yeah,
It
you
might
could be
work.
right there.
That's awesome.
And so, because it's right in the Chinese Materia Medica, they have formulas for tonifying the spleen and warming the middle jiao, warming qi, and that's all you need as long as you've got a good hot flame down there and the spleen, pancreas, is duodenum, and all that. And then you can break down that roughage and deal with it. But if not, a lot of that stuff goes through the system, undigested. Especially women will get loose stool and dampness down there and widening hips. Men don't have so much of a problem with raw food diet. Guys tend to get skinny as a rail, look like bean poles when they're on raw food diet.
Yeah.
Women tend to get bell-shaped and get wide in the hips. That's because women have a yin constitution, and yin is water. Women can hold water more easily. Men tend to steam it off. So I think raw foodist men would do well, in athletics. But taking the herbs like what the Chinese know and what I've got, along with a raw food diet, to me, and I say it in my book, and I'm a big, a big, proponent of the raw food diet. But I say you really do need to take stuff like, what I'm bringing forth and what Ron Teagarden and our lineage, what we know,
Just to balance it
using
out.
tonic herbs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For balance, for just assisting metabolism, making sure that it's all like properly used and assimilated.
So that dampness that
But I do
occur.
think that's the answer to the question.
Yeah, that dampness that can
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. The dampness.
occur from the raw food diet. Do you find that it can lead to like yeast and infection or candida overgrowth over a long period of time
Uh-huh.
because of the dampness?
Yes. Yes, that's one of the reasons that the Chinese discourage the use of a lot of raw food, is because if a person's spleen gets damp from it and they get cold, particularly women, and another reason is because women menstruate, so they lose blood, and blood is the carrier of their qi. So if women get cold hands and feet, then the water starts to build up. You create kind of a damp, warm environment down there that's perfect environment for those yeast to accumulate and overgrow. So women in particular get candida issues with what we call damp spleen, when the raw food diet, and other one, well sugar and other stuff creates damp, and a highly glutinous diet and diet with a lot of milks and things and cheese do also cause accumulations of moisture down there for women and for men too. Men will blow out in like a big bulbous building when they get those kind of accumulations down there. But when that happens and the spleen gets damp, then it's that watery, warm environment in there is a perfect place for candida to spiral out of control. And parasites too, and other kinds of bacteria. And then also it affects blood physiology because the splenic system is where, the splenic meridian is where the blood is fortified. So then women can wind up not having the proper qi in the blood. So then menstrual periods get heavy, even like with heavier bleeding, because the qi isn't being kept up right. The blood isn't being kept up right with enough qi, so the hands and feet are cold, and the blood trickles down throughout the month, and the young lady winds up experiencing excess blood loss in menstrual period, and this all does go to keeping the spleen warm and dry. All this stuff, the root of it. Absolutely. And so that's why the Chinese say don't eat too much raw food, because if your spleen gets damp, it can affect your blood physiology, your metabolism, and everything else. But when I looked at this, I said, well, heck, right in the Chinese Materia Medica, they have formulas for warming and drying the spleen. So what if these were thought of as taking these as an adjunct to a raw food diet rather than taking them, from a medicinal sort of standpoint?
Gotcha.
And the Chinese doctors I've talked with have said, yeah, you could, right.
And you mentioned like cold hands, cold feet. Would there be like any type of tongue coating for a damp spleen?
Yes, you'll see a pale coating on the tongue, and the tongue will be a bit bloated, and you'll see teeth marks along the edge because your tongue's bloated out. So there'll be teeth marks on your edge of your tongue, and your tongue itself will have a very pale coating on it. Gotcha. And that shows that your spleen is damp.
That's very interesting. That could be a whole talk in itself for an hour.
Well, we could keep going on for days and days and days, and it's all we'll all be highly pertinent to the situations we're in our lives. But maybe we oughtn't overload people too much more at this point.
Yeah.
In this talk, huh?
I want to thank you so much for meeting up with me and being able to talk about all this. I know a lot of people here in the Las Vegas area particularly would appreciate this information. So thank you very much.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you. I do look forward to coming.
Awesome.
It'd be great.